Hi there, everybody. I'm Maggie Clark with Equity Title, Senior Business Development Manager. I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about the closing process. We get a lot of questions from both buyers and sellers, as well as real estate agents. So I decided to come on over to Cornerstone Home Lending and to talk to Kelly Zitlow, who's got a great team of closers and loan people, and Christy Kellogg, who's my senior escrow officer in my Hayden office.
Hi.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming by today, Maggie and Christy.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So yeah, there are lots of things that go on behind the scenes when it comes to the actual closing process. So I think one of which, depending on where people are in the country, we have so many people coming from out of state. Arizona is unique in the sense that buyers and sellers don't sit down at the table. Mm-hmm. We don't have attorneys that actually close escrow, right? No. So fill us in from your perspective as an escrow officer, like how does that process work?
So as soon as the CD goes out, and tell us that first. How does your CD go out and how does that work? And then we'll go from there.
Perfect. So the CD is an instrumental piece of the closing process because federal guidelines require that the borrower acknowledge receipt of the closing disclosure 3 days prior to being able to sign their actual loan documents. So with that said, sometimes, depending on the timeline and if it was a fast closing or what's going on, sometimes as a lender, we will send the closing disclosure out to the buyer without it actually having been balanced by the title company, which means that the numbers can change. And so when we do that as a lender, we will send it out and say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, attached is your initial closing disclosure. We are still waiting to coordinate with the title company to balance the numbers. So please know that this will be updated, but at this point in time, this is the initial projection. Please acknowledge receipt, and then that starts the timeline. That starts the clock, which is really important because if that CD is not acknowledged in that time frame, they are not closing based on that close of escrow date. So I definitely want to make sure that sometimes when that CD is sent, y'all know that it's not necessarily balanced and a final number because sometimes things have to happen after that.
Absolutely. And we want to make sure that you close by your escrow date. So once that CD comes to me after the buyer has received it, I will start balancing with the lender. And that means usually I already have their numbers and I have my numbers, and we're adding HOA and credits that come up last minute from sellers or for repairs, those kinds of things. And then we go back and forth with the processor or the funder, and we make sure they all have the same number at the end. The one that we balance with the lender, what wire they're going to send us for closing, and then also the closing funds that the buyer needs to come in with. And so then at that point, once we've balanced, the lender's going to send those docs to me, and that's not going to be till about 3 days after the CD goes out. Some lenders will send their docs ahead of time so that we have those and we can start preparing. Some won't send them out until that 3 days is up. So once we have those loan documents, and like she said, closing in Arizona is really different from a lot of other places in the country. We're the Wild West. So we sign willy-nilly after that. So people will, if we have buyers out of state, we're going to send the documents to a notary service via email. They're going to print those, take those to the buyer, and schedule that appointment and get everybody signed, and then they have to overnight the documents back to us. I know there's a lot of questions about can we just fax or scan them back to you because we want to get this closed really fast and everybody's really anxious, but that just is not a thing. So at that point, then once those documents come back to me, we start processing those. We send them to the lender, to the lending team. The funder will review those documents, come back with any conditions. That could take a day. We don't always necessarily able to close and record as soon as those loan docs come back, especially in this environment that we're in right now, where lending is so busy and the rates are so good and so low. Things are taking a little bit longer to get funded. So at that point, we will, I send it over to you guys, and then what happens on your end?
So let's back up. Can we back up really quick?
Absolutely.
So what we try to do is if we have a close of escrow on a certain date, let's say the close of escrow is on the 15th, we will back into all of these milestones And we ideally like to have our clients prepare to actually sign closing docs 2 to 3 days prior to the actual closing date, which means that that CD is being sent 5 to 6 or 7 days prior to, depending on the calendar. Which means that on a 30-day close of escrow, we don't have a lot of time to be having last-minute changes. So one thing I really want to remind the real estate community to do is notify title and the lending company if there's been any addendums, if there's been any seller credits, if there's something that's going on, if one of the borrowers are out of state and maybe we don't know it. These are the things.
These are real things. Yeah,
really, we're like, what? They're in New Mexico. Okay, right?
Oh, the husband's leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We'll just figure that out. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just want to make sure we got that out there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So once the buyer has signed their loan disclosures, the title company will get them back to us. And we are a lender that actually funds same day. Not all lenders do. So I think that that's another material thing to note.
As well as not all lenders get docs out 2 days or 3 days prior to closing. Sometimes we don't have them until same day. So that's a very stressful situation. So,
yes.
But everybody's working as hard as they can, and we all have the same goal.
It's true. Yes, yeah. So docs come back to us. Our funder is reviewing and then releasing the wire to the title company. So you all.
Yeah.
And once you receive the buyer's funds and the lender's funds, then you prepare to record the deed of trust. Can you walk us through that? Because so many times I'll be getting the call from the real estate agent, 8 o'clock in the morning, has the wire been sent? Yes, it has. And then they call you and they're like, great, where do we get the keys?
Yeah, that's not the way that works. But also when the loan documents come back, immediately that day when we send everything over to the funder for a review of those documents, we also prepare a recording package and we send that to the recording desk. And it's on hold there and we're ready to record as soon as that wire comes in. So the wire runs through a Federal Reserve. We don't always get that wire immediately. Again, especially because of the environment that we're working in right now. That wire can take anywhere from 15 minutes to 4 hours, just depending on when the button's pushed on the lender's end. And then we're also waiting for the buyer's money. That could have been sent to us via cashier's check made out to the title company, or a wire initiated day before, hopefully a day or two before, sometimes same day. So we're waiting for all those little pieces to come into play. We have a little checklist in our head and we know what we need to be waiting for. So recording packages down at the recording desk, day of recording, and then as soon as that wire comes in, we let them know to go ahead and record it. They click the button, and then we wait for the county to confirm recordation. Once it's recorded, we can release keys. But until then, we're all just waiting. Sometimes your clients are sitting in a driveway in their truck. I'm so sorry. We're working as fast as we can. Right? Yeah.
I love when people schedule painters to come out same day. They're like, hey, Kelly, can you get this funded early? Because we've got painters coming at noon. I'm like, okay, no pressure.
Doing your best. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We all are compassionate to what is going on and what a big process this is for the buyer and the seller and the agents, because everybody's emotionally involved in this. These are big purchases, especially with first-time home buyers and people who are relocating. And so we are all, again, just working to make sure the goal is met on the day of close of escrow.
Absolutely.
Wow, you guys, that was great.
Was that good? Is that what you wanted?
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, thanks so much for coming by, you guys.
I know, absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Take care, everybody.